Wow, welcome back. We're still here on Faith Avenue. This is a very special edition of its kind this festive season. Even as we discuss, the reviewing of this year, 2019, we know we've had a lot of, occurrences in this particular year. But as Faith Avenue, we said, why not take, a step to just check what probably has gone right and what has gone wrong, so that probably in the coming year we see how best we could avoid certain, mistakes. And we are still here, and I'm enjoying this show, I must confess.
I'm telling you.
I'm enjoying this show. All right, to start with, let me start with Bishop Mkonde. What do you make of Zambia being a Christian nation? Of what significance is Zambia being a Christian nation?
I think for me, driving my thoughts, my analysis from the scriptures, it's a good thing, actually, to find yourself in a relationship with a creator than being outside the creator, because out there are evil forces of darkness. When you are in a relationship with God, you are in a covenant with God, you are in safe hands.
Wow.
There are certain events and scenarios in the Bible that strengthen my faith. When I look at the nation of Israel going to fight the Philistines, and for 40 days they were not fighting, and yet at home people believed the men of Israel were fighting the Philistines. But there was a challenge. Goliath was a challenge. Was a problem. He was a thorn in the flesh. And so each time we came, he would challenge them. Choose one man. Yeah.
Let's not waste lives here.
Yeah, to face me.
Give me one.
One.
You're reliable man.
So if he kills me, we become your slaves.
Wow.
If I kill him, you become our slaves. Now for 40 days he was
I'm imagining how intelligent Goliath was.
Yeah.
Because he knew he was going to be unbeaten.
Yes. And see, Israel was not trained to fight like that. They were trained to fight as a group.
As a group.
But he changed the game
plan. System.
And it confused them. But you see, there came a young man by the name of David, who also changed the game plan for Goliath. He has never fought a boy with a catapult. He's got a javelin. But this boy is coming also confuses him. Why? Because of the relationship of David and God.
Wow.
Yeah. So for me, to be called a Christian nation is a good thing. Yes, because then you are in the covenant with God. And when you are a covenant-keeping nation with this creator, things will be well with you. Okay? Not at the same time. For example, economically, we may not be doing very well as Zambians. But there are certain things that will show you that this nation is sure in a relationship with God.
Wow.
There are certain things that happen in this nation.
Are you able to point out a few? Probably some people could be wondering, what are those things? We don't even see them.
All right. I think from the way Zambia began, from the history of the missionary David Livingstone, when he prayed over this land of Zambia, the passing of power from one president to another
has been smooth.
Has been very smooth.
Wow.
We are called a haven of peace. And many people are finding out about what is so special about this nation. They don't know. There is this component of being in a covenant with God that has brought about the peace. We may have our own differences here, politically, whatever, but there is something that just happens within Zambia. When everybody is interceding, we are almost going for war. War doesn't break out in Zambia. God is sustaining this nation, and we know in due course things will be better, will be okay.
All right.
Why? Because we are a Christian nation, and we have had the presidents who have assented to that, who, though they are not very strong Christians, but they have realized in Zambia God. You don't make it if you don't align yourself with God.
Wow.
Yes, even politically. Yeah, it's important for anyone who is vying for a place of presidency to know that this country is married to God. Yes.
All right.
And so the slogans like One Zambia, One Nation, when they're coming, they just find the background already set.
Wow.
We are more than 73 tribes in Zambia. Locally 73 plus those who are joining us from other nations. We are more than 73. But One Zambia, One Nation unites us. Why? Because God is authenticating. This is how it's supposed to be. So it's a good thing to be a Christian nation.
All right.
Yeah.
Pastor Mark.
Yes.
Zambia being a Christian nation, as our bishop has alluded to here, tell me, what was probably some of the objectives that our forefathers, the leaders, the patriarchs of Zambia wanted to achieve in declaring Zambia as a Christian nation? Because we're looking at doing a review. So in this case, we want to check, are we scoring, Zambia being a Christian nation?
First of all, we need to go to the genesis of everything. How did Zambia become a Christian nation? Of course, as my father has spoken, when David Livingstone came into Zambia, he made a declaration. That was already a dedication. But that dedication had gone through a dark season because we did not gain much conscience on how to bring Christian values on the land, on the foundation of Zambia. Then came a servant of God, a Cyrus, as I can call him, called Chiluba in 91, who after the encounter, because Chiluba was not just connected to God, but he was in a relationship with God. There are people who are connected to God, but not really in relationship with God. Because once I'm in a relationship with you, I can be able to get the first-hand information of what your heart wants, what you tell me, and what I should do.
True.
So as I can tell you that it is such a blessing for Zambia to be called a Christian nation, as my father has stated it here. Number one, there is that divine covering. When you connect to the Father's blessings,
things that wanted to achieve.
Yes,
we wanted divine covering.
We want just that divine covering. I've heard certain people say, if you say Zambia is a Christian nation, why the people killing each other, the politicians are corrupted, and so on? I always ask them one question: did God choose Israel to be His own people? The answer is yes. But what are the kind of abominations committed by the Israelites? Did it allow God to say that from today you're no longer my people? No. The kind of corruption, the kind of misdeed what our people are committing in Zambia, you can't even compare them to what the Israelites did to God. But there's no way God repented to say that, no, of course at a certain time, he could speak to Moses to say that these people are hard-hearted, stiff-necked people. But Moses could even argue with him. If you kill us, what would the nation say? That is the cry of us as Zambians. Understand? Christian nation does not mean that taking all the evils away. Listen to me, my brethren. The covenant shall stand. Remember, for instance, when we look like when Jacob was coming back from his father-in-law, from Laban, toward his land of settlement. He reached a certain place where he saw the ladder angels going up and down. So he thought this is the house of God. But God saved him and revealed him to him. It wasn't because Jacob was a perfect person. Jacob was still under a curse of being a crook, being this and that. But because of the covenant God had with Isaac, God had to do good to who? To Jacob. Because of the covenant which has been declared upon this country, no matter what these wishful witches can try to portray upon the nation of Zambia, Zambia shall be protected, Zambia shall be blessed. It doesn't mean that the blessings of God cannot bring some difficulties. We can have challenges, economical challenges, moral challenges, but that does not take away the covering of God. That is why the man of God here has spoken. How many times we have had peaceful transition from one president to another. See what is happening in Africa, my brother. See what is happening. Zambia has become what I can call a reference for many African countries. You got right point. What is the secret behind that? Regardless of these cadres attacking each other, regardless of this, but at the end of the day, because of the covenant, because of the love and the hand of God upon this nation, we always end up becoming one and uniting. So those are the objectives. We are seeing them.
Hallelujah. Perfectly elaborated. Bishop Mkonde, I want you to help us. What are some of the things that governs or that holds, or what are some of the principles that governs this declaration of Zambia as a Christian nation?
I think for me, I look at when God looks at the willingness of the people in a particular land, and they declare themselves boldly, we want to be under the kingship, the rulership of God. Then for me, that lays the platform at which now we begin to look at how are we going to move, okay, in this covenant. How are we going to move from here? How are we going to maintain this covenant, the declaration,
Okay.
the Christian nation tag that we're wearing? We begin to look at now certain things. For example, the Ministry of National Guidance and Religious Affairs
Yes.
has been calling for meetings where we have the self-regulatory framework being put in place. Churches begin to talk about the national values, and these are also being shared with our national leaders, begin to talk about them. So we have to get to a point where we begin to look at what things do we feel should help us maintain this status. And so this is why, for me, I even back our head of state. Head of state, when he was viewed about gayism in Zambia.
All right.
I think
we'll
I want to go into that, but I'm just saying that it's very, very important that these things are helping us to become what we are saying, what we have declared. We need to formulate things, the guidelines, and these are things that we have started doing. I attended one meeting where we began to paraphrase and just organize certain things, and these things are being done in phases. We haven't reached there, but we are doing it. And so I see us becoming what we have declared ourselves. By coming together as nationals, as citizens of this country, we agree these things are bringing what we call safeguards so that we don't lose what we have declared ourselves to be. So it's very, very important that meetings of that nature are called and sensitize the citizenry so that they have interest into this. Though some of them are not for this declaration. But at the end of the day, they will be the beneficiaries. Yes. Already the piece we are talking about, some people don't know where it is coming from. There is a cover. Like Reverend has said, there is a cover. And that cover doesn't only select those who are for it. Even those who are against it, they're also benefiting. They are not, refugees going out of Zambia. Instead, Zambia is even receiving more refugees. Why? We are the haven of peace.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I want us to watch this clip of Obama and the president of Uganda. Then we'll get to talk about it.
All right.
If you look at the history of countries around the world, when you start treating people differently, not because of any harm they're doing anybody, but because they're different, that's the path whereby freedoms begin to erode. And bad things happen. And when a government gets in the habit of treating people differently, those habits can spread. If somebody is a law-abiding citizen who is going about their business and working in a job and obeying the traffic signs and doing all the other things that good citizens are supposed to do, and not harming anybody, the idea that they are going to be treated differently or abused because of who they love is wrong. Full stop.
Just like President Obama, I think we also need to be able to speak frankly about some of these things. And the fact of the matter is that Kenya and the United States, we share so many values. Our common love for democracy, entrepreneurship, value for families. These are things that we share. But there are some things that we must admit we don't share. Our culture, our societies don't accept. It's very difficult for us to be able to impose on people that which they themselves do not accept. This is why I repeatedly say that for Kenyans today, the issue of gay rights is really a non-issue. We want to focus on other areas that are day-to-day living for our people. The health issues that we have discussed with President Obama, these are critical. Issues of ensuring inclusivity and of women, a huge section of society that is normally left out of the mainstream of economic development. What we can do in terms of infrastructure, what we can do in terms of education, in terms of our roads, in terms of giving our people power, encouraging entrepreneurship. These are the key focuses. Maybe once, like you have, overcome some of these challenges, we can begin to look at new ones. But as of now, the fact remains that this issue is not really an issue that is on the foremost mind of Kenyans, and that is the fact.
All right. What a great interaction right there. This was a forum where, President Barack Obama, the former president of the United States of America now, was, of course, a proponent of homosexuality in line with, upholding and having respect for human rights. And what is so fascinating is the answer that the president of Uganda gave out. What could be your comment?
Again, if you align your life to the will of God, you are going to differ with a lot of people.
Okay.
I think some of the things that we are embracing in the name of human rights, they are actually contrary to the will of God.
Maybe before we take that direction, before you hit that gate, let's do this. Maybe I want you to give me a definition of homosexuality. What is it?
Homosexuality.
What is it?
This is the practice of the same sex marrying themselves. For example, a man marries a woman. I mean, a man.
Man to man.
Yeah, or woman to woman. Yeah, homosexuality is actually also mentioned in the scriptures.
What does the Bible say about it?
The Bible is against that. Actually, you're out of the natural way of doing things. When in Genesis, God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. And then said, let them.
Okay.
In verse 27, he made man in his own image. He made them man and woman. In verse 28, he says, and God blessed them. He said, be fruitful, increase. Now, I don't see where John marries James and God says, be fruitful. How do they increase? How do they become fruitful? in which way are you going to multiply yourself? Because both of you are male. You cannot impregnate a fellow man. You are out of the natural way of, creating a family. We are co-creators with our God. That's why he put the image of himself into us, a man and a woman. Then he blessed them. He didn't bless John and Mary to become a couple. He blessed Adam and Eve to become a couple.
All right.
To be doing the assignment that God gave them to fill the earth by propagating this earth with children, and they come by the natural way of marrying as man and woman. So when we get out of that, that's why we have a problem today. It is a big problem today.
Maybe let's engage Reverend Mike. Reverend Mike, what do you think, in your own words, gives courage for these people that are proponents of homosexuality? Where is their courage coming from? What do they look at?
In one word,
or maybe what is human rights?
In one word, that courage comes from hell.
From hell.
Life sometimes is more spiritual than physical. So the evil,
not sometimes, every time.
Every time. Whatever we see is first of all spiritual. You and I, like what our fathers said, biblically speaking, God created man and woman. The family unit is made of man, woman, and children.
Yeah, that's when procreation.
That's where procreation comes from. Even when God said, "Let's make man to our image," you have to understand the definition of a man. A man, first of all, is a giver, and a woman is a receiver for the procreation to be completed. You understand? So, a man who is a giver, and how can the man can never have, is not a receiver, because a man only have exit.
Okay.
and not entrance.
Okay.
It is the woman who has the entrance and the man has what is a giver. But it is illegal. The way you are created, the way you are, the way God created you, a giver. When you go to a certain place, we say that entry and exit. If you use exit to come in, what would happen?
They'll take you out and allow you
They'll take
to
out
use
and
the
allow you can
toilet.
even That is exactly what is happening. What we are trying to talk to these homosexuals. Come back to your normal senses. They need, number one, deliverance. Because that idea, that urge, that kind of tendency, it is generated by Lucifer himself. They're under bondage, these people.
I know. Probably, man of God, whatever you are saying, the covering they have is human rights. Can we debunk what human rights is? What are human rights? Maybe Bishop.
Well, I think we look at the interest of people, their freedoms, their rights of doing things. That's why I'm saying, for example, you meet a police officer, okay, a traffic officer, and he tells you are driving. You are charged for not putting on your safety belt, okay? But do you know that even in your safety belt, you can still die with your safety belt?
True.
You are not protected. Yeah, this is the reason why we are saying that these human rights sometimes they are man-made. The real human rights are those that God made for us.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have deviated from the way God originally put things for us. When you from the first book of the Bible, you can see how God set up things for our enjoyment. But people have now left that. We are creating. Somebody appeared in London in court. Why? Over a dog. I think he didn't open the door for the dog to go and enjoy freedom outside.
Okay.
And he found himself in a court of law. Why? He was abusing animal rights. Now, we have to be very careful. We are coming up with the human rights. Most of these, we must use the scale. The word of God. If we come up with any human rights,
but how can it be human rights if I'm not in agreement to it? How can it be human rights to me or for me if I'm not in agreement with it?
You have to know that human right is rules and regulations inspired by the enemy to officiate his throne of rulership.
Are we
on
saying
earth.
all of human rights are inspired by the
All
enemy?
of human rights are not inspired by the devil.
So we
but
should say
what
some.
we are seeing today,
Yes, probably handpicking homosexuality.
or like on homosexuality, you see what is happening today. Like when you go to UK, you go to America, when you see these are the people who are now departing from the holy doctrine of the Bible, even their constitution. When you go to America, for instance, which is now the first to propagate the human right over homosexuality, has they swear on their constitution? They upgrade which values? God's values. When you go to UK, that parliament was built with the word of God, our Father prayer. But as the people started developing this human kind of things, they are trying to depart from the God's will.
Okay.
And today they are trying to officiate, to legalize satanic rulership by putting human mindset that can allow the humanity to depart completely from God's setup of rules.
All right.
So we understand. Even me, I have got my right.
Okay.
You have got your right.
Let's
And
take
if
a
your
break.
right is not conformed to what the word of God says, it's not becoming a right.
Since you're on the floor, can you take us what song we're going to listen to as we go on a break?
I prefer a newly coming song which is entitled Bwana, done by Pompey. Since it is a very fresh song, may it refresh your mind as well.